Hello everyone, and this is a video where I will rank all my platinum trophies by the difficulty. So I did the platinum for Persona 4 Golden recently, and I'm slowly making a video for that for the channel, and it happens to be my 30th platinum, so I have 30 platinums right now. So I thought like maybe it's a good idea just to go ahead and rank all those platinum and reflect on the journey, because I started doing platinums in 2019 and I cannot stop from that point, and like I cannot play games anymore if I'm not doing the platinum. So I'll go through everything, all the platinums, do a small review probably, and like how hard the platinum was and if there was any interesting trophies and stuff like that. So the first platinum here is the Batman Arkham Knight, and actually it was the very first platinum that I did back in 2019, and I don't really remember why I decided to do platinum of this game in the first place, but I vividly remember how at some point I was looking at my friends' profiles on PlayStation Network, and I saw that a lot of my friends, they have platinums. They don't have a lot. They didn't have a lot, maybe like 1 or 2 different platinums for different games. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of cool. And I then look at my profile and I saw that I didn't have any. So I'm like, okay, I want one too. So, and at that point, it so happens to be I was playing Batman Arkham Knight, and I really liked the game, so I thought like maybe I should do all the trophies and stuff like that. So Batman Arkham Knight, it's a very solid game. I think I played the previous parts like Batman Arkham Asylum or Arkham City, I don't really remember. It was a very long time ago. I played on PC, but I remember that all those games are pretty solid. It's like a good, solid, open world Batman game that we all wanted at some point. So yeah, and the platinum was really hard because I wasn't used to doing all those small trophies, all those, like all the optional objectives and all this kind of stuff. So it was kind of hard for me because it was my first. And I vividly remember the last trophy that I did is where you have to do like, I think 15 or 20 different moves, 50 different actions during one fight and during one combo only. And if you break the combo, you have to start all over. And Batman Arkham Knight fighting system is not really all that hard if you're not really into like playing on like hardcore difficulties and stuff like that. It's more of a like Assassin's Creed type of fighting system where you beat up the guys, and when they try to attack you, you can press the button at the right moment, to counter attack, and basically it will carry the game for you. But doing 15 different moves is another thing, especially during one combo, because there's actually a lot of moves and there's a lot of different counter attacks. Some counter attacks can be done only with certain enemies, like there are enemies with big shields, and you can at certain point you can like break the shield and stuff like that. Also, there are a lot of gadgets that Batman is using, like the freezing grenade, shocking pistol, something like that. And basically you have to incorporate everything that you know about Batman fighting system and all the gadgets that you have, all the RPG perks that you acquire throughout the game. You have to incorporate it into one combo. And it was very hard. And at some point it was the last trophy that I had to take, and I was trying maybe a couple of hours to do it, and I was growing very desperate. At some point I was like, okay, I'm not going to get this trophy, and probably this is not, platinum trophies is not the thing for me, because I cannot even do one. But at some point I pressed on at some point, and I did it, and I got the platinum, and this is how the journey started. So this is like an iconic platinum for me. It was reasonably hard. There was a lot of cool trophies as well, like doing all the Riddler puzzles, and there's a lot of them. I think there's like 300 of them or something like that. And they range from very easy, the ones that you just stumble upon and you solve it in like 20 seconds and move on, and ending with pretty hard ones. And there are puzzles that require certain skills to be unlocked or certain upgrades for your car or stuff like that. So yeah, it's and just props to the guy who, or to the team of people who actually put all 300 different puzzles in the game, because there's really not a lot of puzzles that are like copying each other, so that's pretty good. And there are a lot of other trophies, like, you know, you have to fly under all 3 bridges in Gotham during one flight with your cape and stuff like that. So yeah, it's like this is the perfect trophy list for me. You know, like it just gives you the opportunity to experience everything that the game has to offer, and like push you a little bit over the edge. You know, you have to do a little bit of extra mile to get the platinum, and this is like the perfect platinum experience for me. So considering this is my first platinum, and considering that trophy with the very long combo, I would place Batman Arkham Knight into the hard section. And yeah, by the way, the fun section is just, you know, unreasonably hard trophies. And if you know what does the fun exclamation mark means, then I salute you. You're a man of culture. All right, so the next game is Syberia, and this is the last Syberia, one of the latest Syberia games. I think it's the 4th part, and probably it's going to be the last part of Syberia, because the creator of Syberia died couple of years ago. And actually this is the only trophy I think in this list that wasn't basically done by me. It was done by my wife, because she's a big fan of Syberia games. She played the first, the second, the third part. She replayed them a couple of times throughout the last decade, I think. And when I realized that there is a new Syberia game, and it comes to PS5, so I'm like, okay, let's get it, let's play through it together, because I'm not really into you know, quests and puzzle games, but if you're doing it together with someone, actually it can be pretty fun. So yeah, we did the platinum in maybe a couple of days. I cannot say that the game is really hard, but I think the main reason why it wasn't really hard for me is because I wasn't playing it alone. We were playing it together, and you know, when you are solving a puzzle together, sometimes, you know, you have 2 different points of view on this puzzle. You can, you know, discuss it between yourselves, and it actually makes some of the more harder puzzles that are in that game a little bit easier, because, you know, sometimes you have a bright idea, sometimes my wife has a bright idea, and I think instead of like getting stuck on a certain puzzle for like a couple of days, I think the longest stuck that we had is maybe 30 minutes, and it was the puzzle closer to the end of the game, which was one of the hardest ones. And of course there are a lot of missable trophies also in Syberia, because you have to speak with all the NPCs, and if you have to, you know, acquire all the dialogues and stuff like that, and because the game is pretty linear and you actually cannot switch between chapters, so if you miss one of the dialogue lines, it's gone forever. You have to replay the game. So at some point, I think we started the game, we played maybe for like 3 or 4 hours, and then my wife went to sleep, and I realized that probably we missed one of the dialogue lines that was like maybe in the very beginning of the game. So I stayed up half the night, I replayed the game from the very beginning, getting all the dialogue lines until the point where we stopped, and then I went to sleep. And just because of that, I would place this platinum in easy, but just because you have to be very attentive to all the dialogues, all the sub-quests, and you cannot miss anything, or you have to replay the game again, I would place Syberia into the OK section. It's not super hard if you are very attentive, and if you are using a guide or something like that, especially, then of course you will not miss anything, but still, you have to be very attentive to that, so it's not as easy as it could be. Alright, and the next game is Ghost of Tsushima, and you know, I've heard a lot of different opinions about this game, and probably the whole feedback on this game was, like, the opinions on the internet was one of the reasons I haven't got this game on the release date, is that because the game was marketed basically as a Witcher 3 but in ancient Japan, right? In feudal Japan. And on paper, it sounds like amazing, and I was really eager, to play this game because I really like Witcher, and I also like Japan, Japanese culture, so why not? And then when the game came out, I checked through the different reviews and opinions, and a lot of people would say that, yeah, the game is like super pretty, it's amazing in terms of graphics, in terms of aesthetic, but the plot is really like hollow, and the fighting system is not that good. And I'm like, okay, maybe it was like, it was a marketing thing. But when I actually played it, I understood that it was a complete bullshit. I mean, in terms of the plot, maybe yes, but I cannot say that it's a masterpiece in terms of, the drama and stuff like that. But it's a solid samurai drama. If you like Akira Kurosawa movies or just, old Japanese movies about samurais and stuff like that, about feudal Japan, then you will see a lot of homage to that. You will see a lot of drawbacks, callbacks to those movies, and at the same time, it's a very solid drama. There's a lot of cool moments in the game. And regarding the graphics, of course, yes, it's amazing. It's a very cool aesthetic, and I actually liked the fact that the whole premise is not about the Sengoku period of Japan, because I think 8 out of 10 games about Japan will be about the Sengoku period. Oda Nobunaga, Tokugawa Ieyasu, and all those guys. The feudal Japan, a lot of different clans that fight, and you are in the middle of that. And basically, Ghost of Tsushima takes another period about the Mongol invasion, and it's kind of like, it's a different perspective, and it's this tiny bit of Japanese history that wasn't explored in the games fully. So I really appreciated that fact, that they decided to do this bold move and just take that small instance of Japanese history and make a game around it. So it's pretty nice. And of course, the fighting system, actually, it was very good. I mean, I found myself that I really liked the fighting system to the point that I never really got bored of it. Even after playing like maybe 20, 30 hours, you would still find yourself amused by how the fighting system works, how all the moves are telegraphed, the sound design, and the choreography and all this kind of stuff, and this like risk-reward system of the fighting gameplay of Ghost of Tsushima. So for me, this is a very casual game, but at the same time, it's a masterpiece in my opinion. One of the best games to play on PS5 at least. And in terms of platinum, it's a very easy platinum. Can't say less about it. There are no missable trophies. You have to go through a small grind, like opening, discovering all the temples, cleaning out all the camps and stuff like that. But it's actually pretty fun, and you also always rewarded with a cool scenery, a cool piece of storyline and stuff like that. So it's not really a grind. And so yeah, and of course you can do everything after you completed the game. You have the free roam, and you can polish everything that you haven't done during the playthrough. So yeah, I'll put this in easy, but at the same time, I really recommend this game. Actually, I also did the trophies for the DLC, all trophies, like 100% of the DLC, and I even got into the multiplayer, and I was like really eager, thinking that like, okay, I'll go into multiplayer and also complete the multiplayer, so I have like 100% of all achievements that are offered by Ghost of Tsushima. But at the same time, multiplayer is not something that I do usually, so I'm more of a single player guy. But multiplayer is also good. I mean, like, you create your own character, there are different archetypes of the characters, so you can change styles, you grind for equipment, you go through small dungeons, like instances, with a party, or you can do it solo. There are different game modes, there are a lot of different missions, so it's really like a game inside of a game. So it's a pretty solid thing as well. I think I played multiplayer for maybe like 4 to 5 days, and I think I stopped playing because at some point when you are a bit further into the multiplayer campaign, you actually have to have a party because the challenges become really hard to do alone. And online in Ghosts of Tsushima multiplayer is not really big. I mean, like sometimes you have to wait maybe 20-30 minutes for at least one player to show up and help you, and sometimes you can play 5-6 different missions and nobody will show up. So I never completed the multiplayer, but did the platinum, did the DLC, liked it a lot, and yeah, I cannot say it's no effort, but it's pretty easy, and it's more of a rewarding experience, more like an eye candy. So yeah. Okay, and the next game in the list is God of War Ragnarok. Actually, I did it not such a long time ago, and I was really, eager about that game because I liked the first part, the first God of War. Yeah, and it's actually not much to say about it. The game is very long. It's like maybe twice or 2.5 times as long as the first part. There's a lot of different activities. I really appreciate the fact that after you complete the game, there's a whole new region that opens up with its own quests, with its own bosses, with its own the whole area to explore like the new equipment and stuff like that is not available during the main storyline. So you actually are encouraged to free roam and to discover the rest of the world, which is amazing. The platinum itself, it's not really that hard as well. It's the same thing as with Ghost of Tsushima. There is no missable trophies. You can do everything after you completed the game. You can finish all the storylines. You can finish all the subquests. Again, the hardest thing is to fight, I think, the Valkyrie as well, and there are a couple of other bosses like the Undead King guy, which can be pretty hard actually. Even on easy, if you are playing on easy, it still can give you some trouble. But overall, the game is good. Platinum is easy. Not much to say about it. I liked it. It's a nice ending, I would say, ending of the Kratos storyline. It's not a spoiler, just in case. But yeah, so I'll put it as easy as well. And the next game is, I think it's Nioh 2. I haven't done Nioh 1, but I did Nioh 2. And again, this is a Souls-like in Japan. That's like a perfect combination, for a game to be a hit. I think they did everything in a very cool way. They added this like Diablo RPG element where you can grind for equipment, you have sets and stuff like that. That's something that I think Dark Souls, like original Dark Souls games, really lack at some point. Some kind of this like grindy thing. But yeah, the game is good. The scenario, the plot is not something to write home about. It's a typical Sengoku period story with demons and stuff like that. Nice game. The platinum is reasonably hard. You need to complete, if I remember correctly, you need to at least start the game at the second difficulty after you complete everything. You have to grind a bit, you have to gather all the collectibles and stuff like that, but overall I think it took me maybe 2 or 3 weeks to complete the platinum. So I cannot say it was easy because of the grinding, so I'll put it to the okay section. But it's not too hard. It's not something like you have to do the hardest difficulty where you have to grind a lot, and the most hard difficulties, the hardest difficulties in Nioh are like really unforgiving. So, but you don't have to do it for the platinum, essentially. And the next game is Death Stranding, and wow, well, it took me 3 months, to do the platinum for Death Stranding, and well, above all, I really like the game. It has a very weird pacing, like where you are fed maybe with 2 hours of cutscenes in the very beginning, then they give you a solid chunk of gameplay, you know, like maybe you play for like 10 hours and then it's the ending of the game where you watch 5 hours of cutscenes again. The game is weirdly addictive. I mean, like, because you have to grind a bit, you know, to do all the trophies. You have to have like 5-star respect, or whatever it is called, like 5-star reputation with all the cities, all the NPCs where you can deliver the goods, and for that you have to do a lot of deliveries. But at the same and basically you have to do the same thing all over and over again. Just go somewhere, take the goods, deliver somewhere as fast as possible, then do it 25 more times and you get the 5 stars with a certain settlement. But somehow this is very not boring, it's addictive, and at the same time it is, I would say it's like something like a meditative process, you know, because you can enjoy the scenery, and at the same time there's a lot of, you know, very fun stuff that can happen. You know, like you can stumble, you can drop all your goods into the river, and then you spend another 15 minutes trying to get it back. There was a lot of stuff like that, you know, just happen, and you know, it's not scripted, it's just something that happens at some point during your deliveries, and kind of adds, you know, this maybe realistic part to the whole gameplay. So I don't know how Kojima does it, but he just basically made a game about a delivery person that is very interesting to play. So I mean, even if we take away the whole plot and the whole complex thing that happens during the story, but the gameplay is, for me, it somehow, I don't know why, but somehow it is cool. The platinum is also, it's quite easy. I cannot say it's super hard. There are no missable trophies. You have to complete the game and basically get all the collectibles. A bit of a grind again, but it's not something that I was really, you know, concerned about when I was playing. I'll put it as in easy as well. And so far, a lot of the trophies that I do are quite easy, but it will change. It will change at some point, I promise you. And the next game is another platinum trophy that I didn't do. That was done by my wife, and it's a game called Unpacking. It's a very cool, sweet, cute pixel graphics indie game where you just basically need to unpack your things and, you know, place all the things on different shelves, you know, make everything look nice. The platinum is very easy, of course, because it's an indie game, and it's not even a puzzle game. It's more of like a meditative type of thing as well. So I'll put it as no effort, but I would also recommend the game, especially if you really want something, you know, to draw your attention to, you know, maybe think about life and just play something, you know, like don't use your brain a lot. The next game is an Astro Playroom, and it's a game, it's like a default game when you on the PS5. The platinum for it's also very easy. It can be done in maybe a couple of hours, and I think I have it like maybe in I did it in like 3 hours, something like that. The game itself is really short, and generally the whole idea of the game is to show you all the capabilities of the new gamepad, of the DualSense, but at the same time it's a very cute game. It's like a platformer thing, and I don't really play a lot of platformers. I think I haven't played any platformers, in fact, since maybe PSX era, so maybe 20 years I haven't played any platformers, and it actually took me back a little bit, you know, like it's a very enjoyable experience. It's a nice game. There are nice graphics and stuff like that. Of course, there's no story. There's just, you know, gameplay, and yeah. So there's no effort, absolutely, into this platinum, but it's a nice thing. If you have this game, if you have a PS5, you haven't played Astro Playroom, just give it a try. If you are bored at some point, you can just do it. The next game is Bloodstained. It was a big surprise for me, you know, because I'm a big fan of Metroidvania. I'm a big fan of Castlevania, especially Area of Sorrow, Dawn of Sorrow. I played the shit out of those games. Order of Ecclesia, Portrait of Ruin. Portrait of Ruin was, I think, was one of the best games in Castlevania series. I played the shit out of them on my Nintendo DS. When I stumbled upon Bloodstained, I realized that it was made by Koji Igarashi, who is basically the creator of Castlevania. And then when I started playing it, I realized that this is basically Castlevania. And they took the best part from Castlevania. They took the whole soul system from Area and Dawn of Sorrow. They put it into this game. They put in a lot of equipment. They put a very nice story, and basically the story is the same story that you have in Castlevania. There is a big guy, big bad guy, who is sitting somewhere in the castle. There is a castle. You have to fight the guy, and of course there's a bad ending where you just come in and fight the guy, and then it appears that you did something wrong, and then you have to jump, a lot of hoops, find all the secrets, to unlock the secret ending and stuff like that. So it's a pure, unrefined, certified, legendary Castlevania experience, and I really enjoyed playing this game. Platinum trophy for it. Probably it's not hard. I mean, it involves some grind, it involves some of the exploration, but if you like Castlevania, Castlevania and Metroidvania games are all about exploring, if you like that part in this kind of games, that you will enjoy it. So I'll put this into the OK section. It was certainly not easy. Some of the bosses are pretty hard. The next game is Horizon Zero Dawn, and I have really mixed feelings about this game. I have to confess actually that I actually played this game on easy. I started playing this game, I think, on hard. I changed the difficulty to easy at some point, and I just rushed through the game, rushed through everything, just got the platinum, and forgot about it. Because I don't know how, it's the same thing that with Death Stranding, when they took a very, uninspiring, I would say, and bleak setting about a delivery guy and made it into a masterpiece, addictive game. Horizon Zero Dawn, in my opinion, it's the opposite. They took a very interesting and very cool setting about, all this like humanity living in a post-apocalyptic world where machines took over, and they kind of like have this symbiosis with the machines. It's like tribal culture plus the high-tech post-apocalyptic robot apocalypse and stuff like that. And it's crazy, like it's a very, very cool and unique setting. And somehow they made it into the very bleak, boring game. I don't know. I didn't like the characters, I didn't like the story, I didn't like the gameplay. If you play on hard, it's really unforgiving, it's unfair. And I'm really like playing games on harder difficulties, and I usually try to do. But I'm also all about when the difficulty, even if it's hard, if you're playing on hard, it's actually fair to you. Like, you have to rely on your skill, you have to rely on your reflexes, or you have to put a little bit more thought into what you are doing and setting up your character, setting up your party in order to progress through the game, because, well, the game requires you to do. And if you don't want that, of course, you can play on easy and don't give a shit about any of the game mechanics. And with Horizon, when you put the game on hard, it basically bloats the HP of all the enemies, and they also do a shit ton of damage to you, and that's it. And it's just, it's a pushover after a pushover, and maybe it gets better as you progress the game, as you level up, as you get more experience as a player, and also as you level up the character. But at the same time, if the story was good, I would go with it. But because it was really boring, I just put the game on easy, breezed through the game, saw the ending, also did the DLC, did all the side missions, did all the collectibles, got the platinum, and goodbye. So I put this into hard, but not because the platinum is hard, it's because how hard it is to actually sit through all the game to get the platinum. It was a really hard journey for me. And the next game is The Last of Us Part 1. And not much to say about it. It's a very easy trophy, and we all, probably a lot of people played Last of Us Part 1. You cannot deny that it's a masterpiece game. The first part, it's like, for me, it was a really, you know, the best you could do with the zombie drama at that point. And I think it wasn't beaten by that time. Maybe, you know, The Walking Dead, the game, was the same, you know, type of story, the same type of drama, the same type of depth of the characters than The Last of Us Part 1. But I still like The Last of Us Part 1 more. And yeah, it's just a good game. If we are talking about the Part 1, which is a remake of an original Last of Us, the Platinum is much easier because first, you don't have the multiplayer trophies, which is actually the biggest obstacle to get the Platinum trophy in The Last of Us Remastered or the original one. And I think they also tweaked some trophies, like you don't have to play on the Survivor Plus, you don't have to do multiple playthroughs, you don't have to upgrade Joel, I think, to the maximum, something like that. They tweaked a lot of achievements, so basically you can play the game on easy once and do all the collectibles and you're good. And one of the major differences is that in the original Last of Us Remastered, the DLC trophies were not included in the main folder of the trophy, so you don't have to do the DLC to get the Platinum. And in Last of Us Part 1, you actually need to do the DLC as well. And for me it was a good thing because somehow I missed the DLC when I was playing the remastered version back in the day. So I played the DLC, I liked it, it's a nice addition to the story. But I think it took me maybe 2 or 3 days, you know, to get the Platinum for Last of Us Part 1. So I'll put this on easy, and the next game we go to Last of Us Part 2. And this one is much harder than Last of Us Part 1. Well, first of all, it is much harder because the game is like 3 times longer. And in order to complete the game, in order to do the Platinum, you have to play, I think you have to do the 2 full playthroughs. And if you want to do the 100%, you have to do the 3rd playthrough, because there's like 2 additional achievements to play the game on to play the game on grounded and to play the game with permadeath on. They are not required to do for the Platinum, but if you want, you can do this. I did this in my video, by the way. I did the Road to Platinum videos for Last of Us Part 1, so check it out. And also for Last of Us Part 2 as well, where I describe the whole excruciating grind that I had to go through. So for Last of Us Part 2, I'll put this game on hard tier as well. And mainly just because the game is way too long to replay 3 times. And, well, it's not an open world game, you know, it's very linear. There are no different endings, there's nothing like that. So if you're replaying this game back to back 3 times, you're basically, even if you are skipping all the cutscenes, still there's a lot of cutscenes and there's a lot of dialogues that you cannot skip. So it still takes maybe 10 hours, around 10 hours, maybe 10 to 12 hours to complete the game. Even if you skip everything, just rush through the game, enable all the cheat codes that you can enable, still it takes time. So for me it was a grind, but it was a grind, you know, to actually complete the game 3 times in a row. And lastly, we come to in this small series of The Last of Us, we come to The Last of Us Remastered. Not much to add. I already spoke about Last of Us Part 1. So basically the game is the same, just an old engine. The game is awesome, but you have to do the multiplayer trophies. You know, the multiplayer in Last of Us Remastered, it is really good. I mean, if you play 20 hours of that multiplayer, it will become fun for you. Because at first I started playing this multiplayer and I really hated it. I thought that it's the worst thing. And that's basically the reason why I think the time on PSN profiles for this Platinum is like 2 years. Because at some point I just stopped playing multiplayer and I came back to it way later. But actually, if you start, the more you play it, and actually the online for that multiplayer is very good. Like, you don't have to wait to find a match. There's a lot of people playing. There's a lot of guys, you know, like from Japan, from China, who has like level 999, who play very good. And generally there's a lot of people playing, so wow, I was really surprised by that. So the more you play it, the more fun it becomes, because you learn all the maps, you learn all the setups, you experiment with your own setups, you find your own play style, how do you play the game. You can play as like basically all the Battlefield or Call of Duty archetypes. You can play as a gun-blazing, gun-toting guy who just rushes and tries to kill everyone. You can play as a support, you can play as a sneaky guy with a bow and stuff like that. So whatever, you know, rows your boat. And yeah, it's pretty good. So at some point I completed the multiplayer. There are 2 achievements connected to the multiplayer, so you have to play through as a Firefly and as a Rebels or something like that, the Bandits or whatever. So you have to do the playthrough, multiplayer playthrough for both teams. It actually doesn't take a lot of time. I think it will take you maybe a couple of days here, a couple of days there. Depending on your skill, of course, and stuff like that. Because actually in the multiplayer you can fail and you have to start all over again, because they have this mechanic that you actually have like your own settlement, and you have quests that you have to complete during the matches in order to grow your settlement. And I think there are 2 instances during the multiplayer playthrough where you can, if you fail the quest, you lose everything, and basically your settlement gets destroyed and you have to start all over again. So yeah, but it's not a big deal, but still I'll put this into the fun section, because the sheer amount of fun basically that I had, and well, this like insane grind of the multiplayer trophy. And the next game is a Hitman 3, and by Hitman 3 actually I would mean the whole Hitman, the new Hitman franchise, because I had to I was so inspired by that game, because I was really a fan of Hitman when I was like a teenager, of the old Hitman games. And this is basically the Hitman, the old Hitman, but on steroids. Everything that everyone wanted. Big maps, a lot of different ways to kill your targets and stuff like that. Everything is there. Basically a sandbox where you play as a hitman. So I was so inspired by that I completed most of the trophies for the first, second, and the third part. I think the only trophy that I didn't complete and that actually didn't require the platinum is the trophies regarding the sniper challenges. And I would understand doing sniper challenges when you're playing on PC, but playing on PS5 or PS4, it doesn't matter, on a console generally, doing the sniper challenges, it's a big grind. So I think I haven't completed those, but I completed everything, most of the trophies overall. So and it took me a lot of time. I think it took me like maybe at least 1 month, you know, to complete everything. And I was playing like almost every day, maybe 2, 3, 4 hours every day. So there's a lot of content. So if you are getting Hitman 3, you can rest assured that you are getting yourself a game that is worth the money. You know, you can invest a lot of time in that game and you will not get bored, because there's a lot of missions and stuff. I'll put this in hard as well, because of the amount of time that you need for that platinum. But yeah. And the next game is the Doom, well, the classic. I remember my father was playing Doom on a very old PC when I was like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years old. It was probably one of the first video games that I saw, you know, with my own eyes, that I remember, you know, when I was little. My father was a big fan of Doom. So of course, when the new Doom came out, I was really inspired, you know, to play it and also to do the platinum. They did everything that everyone is always asking from a remake, like, or from a remaster or from a restart of the franchise. Just take everything that people liked and do it with the good graphics and add some fun stuff, you know. Don't need to remake the whole game, you know, like they did Doom 3. Just do the same thing with good graphics. People will give you the money. So basically that's what they did with Doom, and it's a very nice game. And of course Doom Eternal is basically the better version of that game. So love it, amazing game. Not a hard platinum, I'll put it into okay. I don't really remember the specifics, I did it a long time ago. I just remember that you have to play multiplayer a bit during the playthrough, but it's basically they don't require you, to play it extensively. You just need to, like play one match, do one kill or something like that. So it's really easy. So the next game on the list is Elden Ring, and you may noticed that this is the only Dark Soulsborne game that I have platinumed, and I am deeply ashamed of it. I really always wanted to do the Bloodborne platinum, but always something gets in the way. I mean, like sometimes I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna do the Bloodborne platinum now, because I have most of the trophies for Bloodborne. I just need to complete the chalices. And I start the new playthrough because I have like some older characters that I used to play the game with. And I boot up the character and I realized that I don't remember how to play. So I thought like, okay, I'm gonna start a new character, I'm gonna play the game again, I'm gonna learn how to play again, and then I'm gonna go into the chalices and complete the platinum. And then I realized that I don't want to play. I don't want to play Bloodborne. I'll go through everything in Bloodborne, like leveling up the characters again and stuff like that, because I'm not that good at Soulsborne games. So yeah, but someday I'll do it. Someday I'll do the platinum for Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3, because those are amazing games. And yeah, and Elden Ring, I did the platinum. I got the game on release. Also an amazing game. I really liked it. And yeah, and actually the platinum is not as hard as, for example, Bloodborne or Dark Souls 3. You don't have to grind covenants. You don't have to get all the spells or all, something like that. You don't have to complete a lot of missable stuff. So yeah, I'll put this in okay, just because, Elden Ring is generally a hard game because it's a Soulsborne. And the next one on the list is the Cyberpunk 2077, and I just love this game. To be honest, I got it on release. I was really disappointed. There's a lot of people who got the game on release because it was really buggy, especially on PS4 at that time. I played maybe 4 or 5 hours. There was a lot of bugs, a lot of glitches, and I thought like, okay, I'm gonna give them another chance. I'll wait 1 year. And actually, roughly I think in January or February 2022, they released the PS5 patch, and I had PS5 at that point. And I thought like, okay, I'm gonna give it a try. And that's a completely different game. I mean, like, everything was patched. The game didn't crash, the game didn't bug. The game is beautiful as hell, and the plot, the story is really captivating. And I'm a big fan of Cyberpunk in general. I mean, like the books and the old movies like Johnny Mnemonic. Cyberpunk is like, rose my boat in terms of aesthetic, and the game nails it perfectly, and I really like the story as well. So I really enjoyed playing the game and doing the platinum. In terms of difficulty of the platinum, it's not hard. I mean, again, there's not a lot of missable stuff. You have to do all the endings, but you can save before the last mission and just basically replay the last mission in different ways and then get all the endings. The prerequisites for the endings is basically to do most of the sub-stories, most of the sub-quests, complete all the, smaller storylines with all the characters. But if you're doing the platinum, you probably will do it anyway. So you will come, by the end of the game, you will come prepared for all the endings that the game has to offer. So it's not hard. It's not easy as well. There's a bit of a grind. But yeah, but overall, the game is awesome. I'll put this in easy because I don't remember, being concerned about the difficulty too much. And the next game is the Shadow of Mordor, and it was one of the first platinums that I did. I think after Arkham Asylum, Death Stranding, I did this one because it was free on PlayStation Plus at that moment. It's a nice game. I mean, I like the Revenant system, all this cool stuff, like with the sieges and the orcs and goblins and trolls, and generally the story is somewhat fun and engaging. It's a nice game. I think I did the platinum in like 1 week. There are some cool specific trophies that you would never do if you are playing naturally. I mean, there is a trophy, I think there's a trophy to kill a dragon while riding a troll. And I was really surprised that there is a separate animation, like the finishing animation. If you're riding a troll, you can kill the dragon. And the animation is actually cool. And I just wondered like how many people who played, not for the trophies, you know, but just naturally played, saw that animation. And, you know, somebody coded that, somebody thought like, wow, that would be a great idea, you know, to put a separate killing animation if you're riding a troll and you're killing a dragon. So, and this is what I like about doing trophies, you know, like it's, it actually gives you an opportunity, you know, to experience everything that the game has to offer. So that's cool. The game is nice. I think I have the lowest completion percentage out of all the games, despite having the platinum, because there's also like 2 or 3 DLCs to that game that I haven't had because of the PS Plus stuff. They usually give you the raw game and everything else you have to buy. So I think I have like 52% completion of the game. But yeah, the game is nice. I'll put this on easy as well. But I would recommend this game anytime. If you're looking for like a solid open world experience, but you're very bored of playing Assassin's Creed, Shadow of Mordor is your type of game. The next game is South Park, Fractured but Whole. And yeah, well, it's a genius game. The same as the first part. I played the first part on PC, and the second part is basically the same thing, but you get like your small like tactical RPG stuff with superheroes, iconic South Park humor, and well, generally the game is not hard, even if you play on hard. I think you have to play on hard, and we all remember how the difficulty is set in this game. But yeah, you have to play on hard, but still the game is not particularly hard. It's more about the fun experience and the South Park universe and stuff like that. I would put it in no effort because I think I did this platinum over a weekend. I had a lot of fun. I had a few big laughs. So yeah, and I would recommend this game anytime if someone wants, you know, to just, you know, kick back and play something casual and at the same time humorous. It's a perfect game. The next one on the list though is the Persona 5 Royal. And oh boy, well, Persona 5 or Persona series in general is it's the series that I deeply love. I remember when I was like maybe 8 years old, I played Persona 1 on my PSX. I didn't understood anything, but I really liked the aesthetic and the whole gameplay mechanics. And of course I never completed Persona 1 at that time because I was too small and stupid, but at the same time it kind of like it stuck to me. So when I was at some point when I was playing like Persona 3 much later, when I was like maybe 16 or 17, I think it was because I played Persona 1 when I was little. So yeah, the game is great. It's much easier in terms of platinum difficulty. It's much easier than Persona 1. Persona, just Persona 5. I have Persona 5 like vanilla one, but I don't have the platinum there because it's really hard. But yeah, overall the game is very nice and I really liked playing it. I'll put this into OK because it's a JRPG and it's like 100 hours long, so you cannot say it's easy if you have to invest 100 hours into the game. But yeah, and I like that they improved everything, you know, comparing to Persona 4 and especially Persona 3. They really improved all aspects of the game. They made it really better. So yeah, recommend to everyone. The next game is Days Gone. And oh boy, this was a very surprise thing for me because I generally don't really play horror games, and I don't really like the zombie setting as well. I mean, like The Last of Us is an exception, but Days Gone, for some reason, really stuck to me. I mean, I really liked the story, I really liked the gameplay and all the biker kind of stuff, the open world, you know, and the fact that you can actually kill really big hordes of zombies, and that's awesome. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'll put it into the OK section, and actually I was really disappointed because I haven't heard or read anything about the game. I went in completely blind, and after I finished the game, of course, because of the cliffhanger ending, I immediately went to the Wikipedia or to Google and start searching like any news regarding Days Gone Part 2, and it seems that Sony will never do Part 2. And of course, there's still a glimmer of hope always. But yeah, I was quite disappointed because I really wanted to see what else they could do. I mean, with maybe PS5 release, or maybe like build on the mechanics from the first part. It would be pretty interesting. It's a great zombie game. If you haven't played it, just do it. I really liked it. The next one is Final Fantasy Remake, and it's also one of the first platinums I did. In the first, I think it's in the list of the first 5. And of course, it was a very anticipated game. I played a lot of Final Fantasy when I was little. I cannot say that I really completed a lot of Final Fantasy games when I was little. I think the only one that I actually completed was part 10 and maybe 10 or 10-2, something like that. But the older part, like the retro Final Fantasy games, like 7, 8, 9 and stuff like that, I think I haven't really. I played them a lot, but I haven't completed them. But of course, it's a classic, so it was really anticipated. Played through. To be honest, I'm kind of disappointed in terms of that they went from this awesome and amazing turn-based RPG to an action RPG. And despite the fact that I love Dark Souls, I really like action RPGs are not my cup of tea. And I'm really into the turn-based JRPGs, and I really wanted, to Final Fantasy VII to be more in that direction. Because of course you can say like, oh, turn-based RPGs, they are not really popular right now, but look here. Persona 5 is like one of the best-selling games of the last 5 years, and well, it's a turn-based RPG, newsflash. So yeah, kind of disappointed, but this is the road that they are taking Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy 16 came out just recently, and we can already see that it's not getting so much attention. I think because it's an action RPG. It's very hard to do something truly different with an action RPG, because when I was watching trailers and gameplay videos of Final Fantasy 16, I was like, well, it's just another generic Japanese action RPG. There's a lot of those. Some of them are more anime, some of them are less anime, but I didn't see a lot of mechanics, like new mechanics. And Final Fantasy, I think, if I remember that correctly, Final Fantasy was always like a game. Every new installment of Final Fantasy was always brings something new, to the world of JRPGs. They really always do something interesting, like with I think Final Fantasy XII, when they did this like gambit system and stuff like that. So I don't know. I have mixed feelings. I did the platinum. It's okay because of that last Bahamut fight, which took me really long time. I grinded everything. I leveled up all the characters, leveled up all the materials, and still it kicked my ass maybe for several days until I watched a lot of videos on YouTube, and still it kicked my ass because you were watching a video and you don't really understand where the guy gets all that damage from, you know. But at some point I figured it out. It was a very rewarding experience. But basically, this is the only trophy in the game where you have to put a little bit of effort. Even replaying the whole story on hard, most of the bosses are just pushovers. You just need to stock up on healing items, and yeah, that's it. Okay, and the next game is Yakuza Like a Dragon, and it was my first Yakuza game. I haven't played 0, 1, 2, Kiwami, Spring of Life. I knew about the franchise through memes, of course, and all this kind of stuff. But this is the first game in the Yakuza franchise, and I picked it up generally because they said that it's not an action RPG, it's not a fighting game anymore, it's a turn-based RPG, and I'm like, oh wow. In that setting, it immediately ringed my bell, you know. I mean, I thought like it should be a masterpiece, or at least a very good game. And I was right, because the game is awesome. The story is amazing. I mean, like, I played a few Yakuza games since then, and so far the story of most of the Yakuza games are very good. I even cried a little bit, you know, during Yakuza Like a Dragon playthrough, you know, because, you know, there's so much drama, there's a lot of, you know, so many plot twists. And at the same time, it gets that iconic Yakuza humor, you know, with all the sub-stories, you know, all the goofy stuff, you know, all the, you know, like mocking of the Japanese culture, of the Japanese everyday life. It's just a nice game. But the platinum is very hard. And generally it is hard because in the Japanese version of the game, they added the final, the true Millennium Tower, which is like the hardest dungeon in the game that you can complete after you complete the story. There is a copy of a final dungeon that is like just a bit harder than the final dungeon. And when you complete that one, you can also complete the true final Millennium Dungeon, where all the enemies are level 99 and the final boss is even harder than the previous two iterations. So the fun thing is that in Japanese version, when they added this hardcore tower, it was a separate trophy, it was in a separate folder, so it wasn't required for the platinum. But then when they released the game in the West, they actually added that trophy in the main roster. And they added that hardcore tower as well. So you had to complete that tower in order to get the platinum. And this is the biggest grind that I did across all the platinums, and I think across all the games that I played in my life. Because, you know, in order to beat the whole dungeon of a 99 level enemies who can one-shot you at any point, and it is also very luck-based. Sometimes the enemy can get a crit and just one-shot the whole party, and you cannot do anything about it. Even though you are grinded out, leveled out, you have the best equipment, best weapons, best skills from all the jobs that are available for a character, even though you can die. So I think I spent maybe like a week just grinding. You know, I watched a lot of movies, I talked with all my relatives, I called my grandma 5 times every day, just because I was super bored going through the same dungeon all over again, because I had to level up the characters, and then you also have to spend maybe 5 to 6 hours playing the business game just to grind up the money, you know, to upgrade the weapons, because at some point the weapon upgrades become super expensive. There's like 5-6 billion yen just to go one level, and you have like 10 levels. And still, after all that grind, I think I beat that tower on my 3rd try and I beat the final fight. When you get to the final boss, you are actually allowed to retry the final boss fight 2 times, and I beat it on my 3rd time. So it was crazy, but it was really rewarding. At the same time, still this platinum is not as hard as Yakuza 0. Because in Yakuza 0 you have to play Mahjong, you have to complete all the dances, you have to do the 100% completion, and it's much harder than this still, because it's not really a grind, it's just, you know, like you have to live in that game for like 3 months. Just play the game like you are going, you know, like it's your job, you know, like just grind 8 hours a day, then maybe you'll get the platinum. And I'm not talking also about the climax battles, about the legendary difficulty, and all this you don't have to do in Like a Dragon. So it's hard. I'll put it in the highest tier, but still, it's if I also had Yakuza 0 Platinum, I will put it above. I will designate, you know, a separate tier called Yakuza 0, and it will be there because it's because I really tried to do Yakuza 0 Platinum and I couldn't. It's one of the platinums that I basically dropped. Yeah, so the next game in the list is Disgaea 1. It's a remaster or remake, remaster version from a very old PS2 game, and to be honest, I have a very special relationship with Disgaea franchise because literally nobody knows about Disgaea franchise. I mean, people on the internet now, maybe you know, but across all my friends who had consoles, across all my acquaintances, nobody really knows about Disgaea, and it's a very cool game. I mean, like it's a greatest tactical RPG that you can find nowadays, and it has very cool pixel aesthetic. It has a lot of cool mechanics, and considering they build up on those mechanics with every consecutive part. So like in part 5 you have everything that you have in part 1, but more, and there's more stuff, and there's more stuff you can do, and the story is always hilarious and stupid and goofy, but at the same time sometimes serious and sometimes dramatic. So it's generally it's just it's a hidden gem. You know, if you haven't heard about Disgaea games, just look it up. Just, you know, get at least one part. It doesn't really matter which one. But just don't start with the I think this part 6 because it was a failure. But everything like from part 1 to part 5, everything is good. And actually just today I read in the news that in October there will be part 7 of Disgaea, and it looks much better than part 6. And everyone is saying that it's like they try to come back, you know, to the more successful installments and do everything properly this time. So if everything goes good, then maybe I'll get it on release and I'll try to do the platinum for that. Regarding the platinum trophy, it's really hard. You have to do a lot of grinding, and I will not go into the grinding process too much, but just, you know, just a glimpse of the grinding that you have to do is that you can actually level your characters to level 9,999, and when you do that, you can reincarnate them. They will keep a portion of the stats, but they will be level 1, but they will be significantly stronger level, and you can do the grind to level 9,999 again, and they will be significantly stronger than they were in their previous reincarnation. And you can do it 9 times in order to max out everything, because at some point they stop getting the bonuses for the stats. Whew. But yeah, and this is just a glimpse of what you need to do. And there's like leveling of items. There are like in every item there's like an item general, an item god, and you have to take the ultimate weapons of every category should be taken only in the item world and stuff like that. So there's a whole there's a big grind fest in terms of completing everything. In Disgaea 1, there's a lot of challenges and stuff like that. So yeah, if you're really into that kind of stuff, I really suggest you play almost any Disgaea part, and you will not be disappointed. And of course, I'll put it into the hard category because yeah. The next game is Watch Dogs Legion, and I don't remember. I think I got it on discount or it was on PlayStation Plus. But generally, I really liked the idea. I haven't, to be honest, I haven't played Watch Dogs, the part 1 and 2. I only played this one, and I really liked it because of that whole mechanic where you are not playing as a certain character, you are playing as the whole city. Basically, you can recruit anyone. You can recruit a grandma. You can recruit a sports guy. You can recruit a guy who's like doing the construction works and stuff like that. And most of those characters, they will have different skill sets, different weapons, stuff like that. So that's really cool. Of course, it gets repetitive, and of course, there's a certain meta to the game, like in terms of if you really want to succeed. I mean, if you really want to get good characters, there's only a handful of professions. Like I remember I was playing a lot with the guy with the drone, because there's the drone can actually shoot and can stealthily go into the buildings and like open doors for you. And there's also like guys like James Bond, like kind of like secret agents, MI6 agents, who have cool gadgets. Like they have the watch that makes you invisible, they have a cool pistol and stuff like that. So there are a few professions that are much better, of course, than a grandma. But it's generally really fun to play. And I was also playing on like permadeath mode. So if you lose someone, if some of the characters die, they will die forever. But still, you actually can go and recruit the same guy again. Like they respawn. So it's kind of like it's a permadeath, but it's not really a permadeath. If they would add a certain mechanic, like where you actually can level up your characters, like for example in Darkest Dungeon, where you recruit a guy, you can recruit a knight, you can level him up to level 5, give him the best equipment, best trinkets, and then he will die, and then you can recruit another knight, but he will be level 1, you have to do it all over again. Then it would be okay. But if your drone expert dies and you can just go to the same spot on the same square and recruit another one, then it's kind of like, it kind of like waters down the whole permadeath thing. But still, I don't really remember anything hard about it. I'll put this at easy. You have to complete the game. It's not much to write home about generally. And we come to the shitstopper. It's The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. And well, this game is awesome. I mean, it's one of the best games that ever, probably. Of course, we can talk about the fighting system, which is, I would say, CD Projekt Red is not really selling point, like making good fighting systems. I mean, also Cyberpunk 2077, same thing. But at the same time, like the story-wise and the universe-wise, the whole Witcher thing is amazingly done, with love and respect, I think. I read the books when I was in university. I was really in love with that universe. So of course, playing Witcher 3 was a big inspiration for me. The platinum itself, wow, it's a very long grind. I mean, like you have to get all the Gwent cards, and there's a lot of those, and there's a lot of missable cards. So you have to do a lot of stuff. You have to do a lot of grinding. All the sub-quests, a lot of different small things, but it's worth it. I mean, like you eventually you get to experience everything. And I learned how to play Gwent. And after I completed the platinum, I even downloaded the mobile Gwent, played it like 5 minutes and deleted it. But still, I was so inspired because I can play Gwent now, so maybe I can continue playing Gwent. on my phone, but no. It's a different game, but still, you know, it's a fun thing, and you can experience everything that there is in Witcher 3. So yeah, I'll put it on hard. It's not like super hard, but yeah. The next one is Borderlands 3, and well, I can say that I really like Borderlands. I played a lot of Borderlands 2. I think it was the first game, like Borderlands 2 was the first game I actually bought in Steam. So yeah, and of course Borderlands 3 came out. I decided to play it. It's much better than the second part. They upgraded everything they can upgrade. Story-wise, everything is cool. It's a looter shooter, but you know, maybe I outgrown it. Maybe something changed, you know, in my perspective, like my vision of video games. So I enjoyed it, but I can't say that I really liked it. And regarding the platinum as well, not a lot of grind should be done. The hardest trophy, that I did was when you have to shoot like all the targets in like a shooting range in the hub area. And basically it's really hard if you're playing on console. It's a bit easier if you play on PC, but generally it's all comes down to the weapon that you have. If you have the right weapon, then you can do it quite easily. I think I did it after like several days of trying. I was just playing the game and just occasionally going back to hub area and just try to shoot all the targets there. And at some point I managed to do it and I got the platinum, and I immediately deleted the game because I was sick of playing it at that point. I played it for maybe a couple of weeks. But yeah, it's a good game. I'll put it in okay. It takes some time to get the platinum, but not something super hard. All right, and finally we also have the God of War, the original one, the part 1 of the trilogy, and it took me a while to do the platinum. Because I played that game before I started doing the platinum, so I completed the game and I forgot about it. And at some point I just came back to that game way into the future, and I saw that like I didn't do like half of the achievements, and I'm like, what was I thinking? Like there's so much stuff to do. Like you have to kill all the ravens. I haven't killed all the ravens. I have to go and kill all the ravens. I mean, all fathers should be blinded, But so yeah, it took me maybe a couple of days, just maybe a few hours to relearn how to play the game. Because like when you're in the end game, you have all the equipment and all the skills and stuff like that. So generally, you have to learn how to play the game again. But I finished all the challenges and stuff like that, and quickly got the platinum. The platinum itself is not hard. I think the difficulty is the same as with God of War Ragnarok. There's no missable achievements. You can free roam. The only thing is that, of course, it's not as open world as God of War Ragnarok, and if you need to go from one place to another sometimes, and there's not a lot of portals, like all this like waypoints things, so sometimes you have to really go a long way and find a certain place that you missed, like a certain raven or a certain chest or something like that. But it's not a big deal. I'll put this at easy, put it next to the God of War Ragnarok. And yeah, the next game, penultimate game, is the Control. And oh boy, it was also a surprise for me. Almost the same level of surprise as Days Gone, because I haven't heard anything about the game. I just heard from a friend that it's a good game. And it's kind of like they were inspired by the SCP. If you know what is SCP, hats off to you. If you don't know, just Google it and go read something. It's an amazing universe, and yeah, it really was heavily inspired, I would say, by SCP, and a good AAA game based on the SCP universe is something that I didn't know I needed. But I was really happy when I found it. Overall, the game is nice. It's an action RPG, action shooter RPG even. The story is very interesting. And the platinum, actually, it's not really all that hard. You have to complete the game, get all the collectibles, all this jazz, you know, nothing too hard. I also completed all the DLCs, the 2 of them, also 100%ed them. And of course, if you play the game, you remember the labyrinth section where you listen to the nice song and go through the labyrinth. This is one of the best things that I've seen in the video games for the past decade. So yeah, amazing game, easy platinum. And this comes to the last platinum that I will be releasing a video quite soon, maybe in a couple of weeks. It's the Persona 4 Golden. And certainly it's harder than Persona 5. Generally because also you have to complete the game perfectly, like you have a very limited amount of days. You have to pack those days fully, you know, do all the social links and all this kind of stuff. You have to also complete the game. But at the same time, they don't require you to complete the game with like harder difficulties or something like that. The hardest thing, of course, is the secret boss that you only can encounter during your second playthrough, and it's closer to the end of the game. So you have to do a second playthrough almost fully, which was a bit of a drag for me because, you know, generally when you're doing the second playthrough, you just skip in days, you know, because you don't have to do the social links. You already have all your compendium, all the personas unlocked. You can do anything. You are pretty strong from the very beginning of the game. So you just go ahead and skip the days all the time. And it just takes time, you know. Even if you do it like this, it will still take you maybe 10, 15, 20 hours, you know, to do a second playthrough. Only to get to the final boss, to kill it and to get the platinum. So I'll put it in hard. It's more of a harder platinum, but at the same time, it's a nice game, and I'm really eager and inspired about the Persona 3 remake. And considering it will be out next year, like early next year, I think, I'll definitely going to go through the Persona 3, the remaster that they released together with Persona 4. Definitely going to go through Persona 3, do the platinum, also do the video and stuff like that, but a bit later. I'm a bit, you know, exhausted after Persona 4. So yeah, and this is basically my tier list for all the platinums that I have. It looks pretty good, quite a few hard trophies. Hopefully I will do more of a harder ones in the future. But yeah, if you have any suggestions, if you have any questions, just let me know in the comments. Check out the videos regarding The Last of Us Part 1 and 2. I'll put the links in the descriptions as well. Thank you guys. If you like the video, just give a like, subscribe, and see you soon.